Media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amba News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1970, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed, with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
Third, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Amazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambatv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team. Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Disinformation in war is nothing new. In fact, it's a key part of the playbook. Tyrants commonly inflate or fabricate information or indirectly via their proxies, mostly a psychological warfare strategy. Preempting propaganda by design, mis and disinformation are more infectious and incendiary than factual information, which makes them particularly useful in wartime. Research has shown that after undergoing fact checking, information deemed false spread faster on social media than information deemed true. A trend fueled by people, misinformation tends to draw on moral emotions language, making it more likely to be shared, especially within ideological groups. Once it takes hold, misinformation is tough to correct. Psychologists have shown that or preemptively warning people about incorrect or misleading information is more effective than debunking falsehood after the fact. Personal and emotional appeals, rather than merely providing a fact check, can also be helpful. Pro La Republique du Cameroon newspaper, the Guardian Post, proven to be amongst the frontliners of Cameroon's proxies, with a shameless mission to enhance targeted misinformations against the Amazonian liberation movement. Undaunted, ABC Amba News debunks and dismisses their headline of Thursday, October 13th, 2022 edition, featuring captions as Canada reportedly fronted fresh up to end Anglophone crisis, Sacco-led Amazonian interim government gives conditions to participate. Quite misleading indeed. Tar Padding King, our news director, and barrister team in Basea will surely do justice to that tonight. Meanwhile, as the world observes the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, two powerful ladies and medical practitioners in high offices within the interim government, Dr. Patience Abiedu and Dr. Yaya Fonye, are in our studios to facilitate that aspect of our discussion tonight. With that, we move on just after the prime headlines.
And these are the prime headlines for today. Paul Achombong has failed to match words with actions. Today we're going to be looking at how La Republique du Cameroon incarcerates conscious colonial military officers. Also, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. What do you need to know about breast cancer? That you'll be finding out today. Also, today we're going to be looking at financial scandals rock La Republique du Cameroon. Of course, a colossal sum of 500 billion francs CFA unaccounted for. Also, today we will be looking at La Republique du Cameroon police and corruption scandals involving identity card business. We brought you that before. Today we will be revisiting this topic again. And in sports, Manchester United supporters trust set to launch legal action against Chelsea away ticket allocation.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best. With the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
The question, which has stirred controversy for a while within the fast evolving Ambazonian struggle, the independence restoration movement, which for a very brief historic moment has experienced transformational and non-transformational leadership successively and simultaneously would be. Is Sisiko Julius Ayok-Tabe in the realms of African politics, heroism, freedom fighting and legendary leadership another Nelson Mandela?
Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela began his life herding sheep and cattle in the rolling hills of South Africa's Eastern Cape. In his autobiography, part of which was written secretly while in prison, Mandela wrote, "I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free. Free in every way that I could know. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut. Free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village. Free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the broad backs of slow-moving bulls. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion, when I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to hunger for it."
When I went to school, the lady teacher, Miss Mdingane, asked, "What is your name?" I told her my African name, Rolihlahla. She says, "No, I don't want that one. You must have a Christian name." So I say, "No, I don't have one." She says, from today, you're going to be Nelson."
So henceforth, he would be known to the world as Nelson Mandela. As the son of a chief, Nelson Mandela had access to the best education available to black people in South Africa at the time. Studying at Fort Hare University, where he first became involved in student protest, his refusal to accept injustice, unfairness, and inequality would last a lifetime. South Africa, 1941. In his early 20s, Nelson Mandela moved to Johannesburg, where he first encountered the racial discrimination that would later become entrenched in law by the apartheid government. Working on the mines and later as a clerk in a law firm, Mandela pursued his law studies and joined the African National Congress, the oldest black political organization in South Africa.
It was when I came into the African National Congress that I realized that Xhosas are only a part of the African people. That the task of the ANC was to unite the African people and out of them build a nation.
When it became clear that all means of peaceful negotiation had been exhausted, Mandela went underground to lead the armed struggle.
We have made it very clear in our policy that South Africa is a country of many races. There is room for all the various races in this country. There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people.
Key government installations were targeted for sabotage. Mandela became known as the Black Pimpernel. In 1962, Mandela was captured, charged with leaving the country illegally, and sentenced to imprisonment for 5 years. Shortly afterwards, his ANC comrades were captured with evidence which incriminated Mandela. He returned to court for the Rivonia trial, where he and 8 others faced a possible death penalty.
The very speech which was made by Nelson consolidated the spirit of the people outside. because it was a defiant spirit.
I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunity. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
The Director of Cabinet at the Office of the President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Eric Ate, with an understanding of the methods of historical inquiry, including how evidence is used rigorously to make historical claims and discern how and why contrasting arguments and interpretations of the past have been constructed, brings an assessment of the objective status of this particular instance of knowledge to be judged, not by some atemporal comparison with given facts, but by a historical investigation in the place of that instance of knowledge being considered.
The very speech which was made by Nelson consolidated the spirit of the people outside, because it was a defiant spirit.
I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunity. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die.
People of Ambazonia, I hear people come up with this distortion of history that Mandela wrote from jail. I must say, it is laughable because in the first place, South African blacks were fighting for equal rights within their country, while the present-day Ambazonia is fighting for self-determination and to actualize its restored independence. Mandela was the president of the Youth League of the ANC when he was condemned to life imprisonment. He was not the president of the ANC. This fact should be noted. Oliver Tambo was the president of the ANC and was on exile in Britain. He led the struggle for over 20 years while Mandela could only speak to his wife through a hole in a caged glass cell for over 20 years. When Mandela became the symbol of resistance due to his long stay in prison, the world joined his people to protest for his release. You must know that Mandela earned the sympathy and respect of his people because he did not try to usurp power from the free South Africans fighting for him and his people. Mandela remained loved because he did not divide South Africans with the creation of another ANC in jail. Mandela did not send conflicting correspondences from his prison cell to the international community, countering what the free leadership of the ANC sent out. Mandela did not open himself to be used by those who wanted to cause confusion amongst his people by meeting with them, our enemies, La République, after the free leadership had already stood their ground in matters like ceasefire, which was being debated. After the Honorable Mandela had earned the love and admiration of his people, he continued being honorable with his actions. He told his jailers that only free men can negotiate. He asked them to leave the ban on the ANC so his president Oliver Tambo can come back home. He asked that Walter Sisulu, one of his very sick cellmates, and other prisoners be released So the negotiation goes on, not with him as a prisoner, but with the ANC and Oliver Tambo, the free leader of black South Africans, at its helm. Oliver Tambo flew back to South Africa after more than 35 years in exile as the president of the ANC. He was received by Mandela himself at the airport. Mandela, who went to jail with the title of president of the Youth League of the ANC, had long been replaced by a number of successful people. Mandela was an ordinary man, but he was not without power. His behavior while in jail had earned him the respect of all black South Africans and sympathizers all over the world. Unlike what we see today in our struggle with our captured prisoners. Exile and a long fight for freedom had left Oliver Tambo fatigued, and because of that, an emergency meeting of the ANC was convened and Mandela was voted, not as president of the ANC, but as vice president, so he could lead the ANC to negotiations with the white minority government of South Africa. They maintained the frail Oliver Tambo as president of the ANC when those negotiations began. That was Mandela for you, an honorable man who should never be compared to just any Jack or Jill. Oliver Tambo died from his illness and Mandela was elected president of the ANC. After negotiations and as per South Africa's constitution, since they have an executive parliamentary system, the leader of the party with the majority seats in parliament becomes president. The ANC won the elections and Mandela became president. These are the steps of a man, Mandela, who led his people honorably. This is a man who never betrayed his free leadership. This is a man who looked at the bigger picture with the freedom of his people always taking precedence over his self-glorification. This is a man, Mandela, who never abandoned his spirit of selflessness, unlike some Ambazonian prisoners, who have shamelessly encouraged other Ambazonians to torpedo the efforts of those who are bent on taking this fight to its logical end, which is the total freedom of our people and the total independence of Ambazonia. That's Mandela for you. The behavior of our brothers in jail has been detrimental to this revolution, and any true Ambazonian must ask them to stop their treacherous anti-revolutionary activities. The one other thing I want to say here is that if Sisiku claims he has his personal government and he has named his so-called vice president, why then did he not send those murderers from La Republique who pulled him out of his jail cell for talks to his so-called vice president who is a free man? What does that tell you? I think all these gymnastics is all about Sisiku doing everything to remain relevant. However, he must remember that he was respected and in a better position when the Restoration Council maintained him as president and Dr. Sako as acting president. But even that arrangement was not good enough for him. I'm quite certain he will rather be in the previous arrangement than the present one, in which he is fast becoming a traitor in the eyes of many Ambazonians. Mandela was loved not because he projected dominance, but because he inspired his people with his respect for the free leadership in their effort to free his people, his country. And he did everything not to split his people. The question is it about the people or about self? I believe it is about our collective freedom. No one person is bigger than this revolution. Ambazonia must and will be free, because this generation of Ambazonians will never let La Republique du Cameroon forcefully rule over us like they did our forefathers. I end by saying that we should stay the course, draft ourselves remain vigilant, and apply Sisiku's words. Throw every traitor under the bus. Welcome those who openly repent, but always be aware of their past treacherous inclinations. I want to thank you for listening to this video. My name is Eric Atte.
Hello.
I'm the Director of Cabinet at the Presidency of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. God bless you, and God bless Ambazonia.
Of course, God will continue to bless us because we are in a just cause. The words and the voice of the Vice President, Mr. Eric Atte there. Welcome to Undaunted once again. Now, more than a month ago, that in-house slave city councillors to the colonial Bamenda City Council voted budget for the rehabilitation of city roads. There is still no action being taken on the ground to that effect. The in-house slave city mayor assured that in no distant time, effective work on city roads will commence. In 1 month and 12 days, not enough to keep the waiting. Why is he not making a statement as to what is hampering the commencement of the road rehabilitation works? Now, this is where we begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. Star Smart is here as always. Good evening, Star.
Good evening, Onye. The in-house slave city councillors of the Bamenda City Board have voted a deliberation to initiate the rehabilitation works on the urban road network of Bamenda. The deliberation was voted as the Colonial Bamenda City Council converged for its midterm evaluation Thursday, September 1st, 2022. 400 million francs CFA is needed to make the road passable around Bamenda, according to studies. Now, this will see the greater portion of the broken tar removed and water channels of the road, according to a declaration of the in-house slave Bamenda City Mayor, Paul Achombong. Of the 400 million francs CFA, 90 million will be provided by the Colonial Ministry of Transport, while the Colonial Bamenda City Council will provide the rest. Councillors drawn from the 3 sub-divisional councils unanimously voted the deliberation, which will serve as a welcome relief to the suffering peoples of Bamenda. Now, today, October 13th, makes a month and 12 days that the above resolution was taken on the rehabilitation of roads within the city of Bamenda. The people are to see the commencement of the road, yet to see. The Bamenda Sonak Street, Ayaba Street, Meta Quarters, Amor Mezam have been at a consistent state of dilapidation, with cars moving from one end of the road to another just to find a passable path. Now, this has forced commuters to spend quite some time on the road before arriving. Their car owners are forced to be in garages every now and then, according to views published by Undaunted some weeks back, while the in-house slaves councillor applaud the common man await the reconstruction of the entire urban road network of Bamenda. According to the city mayor's intervention, no contractor has to do the urban road network of Bamenda.
Now, returning from the United Arab Emirates after his election in 2020 as the city mayor to the so-called Bamenda City Council, the so-called Bamenda City Council in-house slave Paul Achombo promised to transform Bamenda to the likes of Abu Dhabi, where he was coming from. Here we are in 2022. Bamenda is worse than he made it. The road network in Bamenda is a nightmare to users, both pedestrians and vehicle owners. Bamenda city dwellers have come to a conclusion that nothing good can come out of Paul Achombo. Now, there is fire on the mountain. There is division within La République du Cameroon forces, as some conscious ones have decided not to take up arms again against the Ambazonia liberation fighters. Now, this is a big blow on the part of the colonial Cameroon government, who took a military option rather than a diplomacy, while the people of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia manifested their discontentment of being marginalized. The one-time declared 2 cubes of sugar by a colonial minister in La République du Cameroon government have stopped dissolving. Now, there is no amount of forces that can deceive and defeat a people who are backed by the truth and God. The Amazonian quest for the restoration of their statehood is a divine ordained mission, and nobody or group of persons can hinder that. If La Republic du Cameroon has started fighting her white blood cells, the military, therefore, is finished. What a blow on the part of La Republic du Cameroon.
Now, prisons, different cells in colonial police stations in the northern zone of Amazonia are all full with La Republic du Cameroon military officers. Now, these soldiers are incarcerated for refusing to face the Ambazonian liberation fighters. These victimized colonial La Republic du Cameroon forces justify their refusal to go for battle that the use of improvised explosive devices, IEDs, by the fighters is a hard nut to crack and is killing them in their numbers. Now, sensing that refusal to go for battle might eventually lead them changing camps, their chief of armed force, Dictator Paul Biya, ordered for their detention. The use of IED has been a very successful weapon in the hands of the Amazonian liberation fighters. The IEDs, they are able to disfigure the heavy war-designed vehicles of La Republique du Cameroon.
The roads La Republic du Cameroon yesterday denied tarring, knowing that she was punishing the people of Ambazonia, are the same roads killing them today. It is on these earth roads and roads full with potholes that these devices are planted. The last exploit of the successful use of their improvised explosive devices was along the Bamenda Bafoot Road, where an armored car was shattered and all the occupants killed. Human rights groups and international bodies have called on dictator Paul Biya to embrace a genuine and inclusive dialogue as a way out to resolving the crisis, an option he is not willing to accept. Now that the soldiers had so much counted on is failing him, it might be the start of him considering dialogues as the better option.
Now, nobody is safe any longer with the presence of La Republique du Cameroon forces in Amazonia, given that they are on a rampant killing expedition. With a face presented of protection, the civilian population, the hiding agenda of La Republique du Cameroon through the colonial forces is to deprive Amazonia of her youthful population and heritage. The colonial forces of La Republique du Cameroon are indeed bent on crippling the southern Cameroon's Amazonia. They do not only kill the people of southern Cameroon's Amazonia, both the young and the old, they equally burn down homes and businesses. Presently, in an invasion since Tuesday, October 11th, they have killed 2 Amazonian civilians and burnt more than 10 houses. Is this really a force at the service of the people? Why is it that these same colonial forces are not the same killing, burning and looting in La Republique du Cameroon, but only in southern Cameroon's Amazonia?
Well, it has come to the knowledge of Undaunted that 2 civilians have been killed by members of La Republique du Cameroon military after an invasion in Mbissab village and set more than 10 houses ablaze. The colonial military men invaded the village since Tuesday, October 11th at 5 a.m. During the period of burning houses, these thugs killed 1 man and the child and dumped them in the river. Now, a source hinted Undaunted this. Undaunted equally learned that the colonial La Republique du Cameroon forces attacked the village in search of Ambazonian separatist fighters. It is said that separatist commander Mbeshe Clement, alias Field Marshal No Pity, was around the Mbesa village. Mbesa village is located in Belo local government area, Boyo County, in the northern zone of Ambazonia. Now, some footages here. But before we give you those footages, let's look at the Boyo County situation report. Now, La Republique du Cameroon terrorist military brought down more than 12 houses, 5 bikes, and killed more than 5 civilians as they continue with their unabated genocidal campaign in Amazonia. Now, this incident happened in the village of Akay and Mbesa. Now, at Akay, 2 suspected Amazonian fighters were pulled out of their sick beds from a local clinic and brutally killed. At Mbesa, just like we reported, one civilian by name Helbert Nshom was killed as he attempted to flee from the unsafe area with his child. The child is at this point nowhere to be found.
The military terrorist forces from neighboring La Republic to Cameroon are presently still in Mbesa. They are expected to continue with more bloodshed and scorched earth policy towards Ambazonia. The Boya County security team is calling on the entire population to remain vigilant and report any suspicious persons to their nearest Ambazonia Restoration Forces Command Unit. This is from Boya County security team.
Kelly the Bolodis, other studies, Corner and Immaculate, Christopher Aki, store, see the way Kelly don't chat us store. Drink orange. Mami Center Studies at Immaculate. Shishingodi. I will see the area many enter, already destroy. Okay.
And as you can see on the screen, these are the houses that were burnt down in Mbesa village. These are the houses. It's quite pathetic. But this is what Ambazonians would have to live with until freedom is gotten.
Now, Undaunted has been made to understand that some 1,790 agents from the La Republic du Cameroon Ministry of Finance are being asked to justify their fictitious mission expenses collected under a certain expenditure line coded line 65 managed by this ministerial department, and the amount missing being a colossal sum of 500 billion francs CFA. Reports say the presidency of the La Republique du Cameroon initiated a few months ago an audit on the management of budget lines 65 and 94, managed respectively by the Ministry of Finance and Economy. Line 65 of the Ministry of Finance is entitled Common Operating Expenses, while line 94 entitled Investment Interventions is managed by the Ministry of the Economy. Now, in a correspondence dated September 30th, 2022, the Minister of Finance, Louise Paul Mutaze, invites 1,790 agents from his ministerial department to justify mission expense received during the period from 2010 to 2021.
Now, this includes expenses engaged on line 65, indicating the letter. The audit mission is carried out by the La Republique du Cameroon Ministry delegate to the presidency in charge of Supreme State Council. From this investigation, it is revealed that the mission expenses incur on the sovereignty line do not most often comply with the regulations in force. Undaunted learned, for example, that there are several civil servants who accumulate more than 400 or even 600 days of mission per year, while the text enforced in the La Republic du Cameroon Civil Service stipulates that the number of days of mission to be carried out by an agent of the state must not exceed 100 during a fiscal year. Surprising too, it was noted that many state agents regularly receive all of their mission expenses incurred on this line 65 even before carrying out the said mission. However, the regulation in force prescribes that only 60% of the cost must be collected on departure for the mission, and the rest of the 40% must be collected when the agent returns after filing his or her missions report.
This audit arouses suspicion in the public opinion due to the opacity that reigns around the management of these credit lines and the volume of funds allocated to these two budgetary chapters. The 2020 settlement law, which takes stock of the execution of the annual state budget, indicates, for example, that line 65 had benefited from an initial allocation of franc CFA 272.8 billion franc CFA, but at the end of the fiscal year, this revised allocation was 570 billion franc CFA consumed at 99.7%. Many observers accused the La République du Cameroon presidency of complicity in ordering for this control very late. They argue the La République du Cameroon presidency must have wanted to protect the culprits, for how could certain public officials produce proof of a mission carried out 10 or 12 years ago, view the endemic corruption and poor filing system in La République du Cameroon's public service, even if they had kept some documents, the recurrent moves coupled with negligence and laissez-faire, they will be lost.
Now, skeptics describes this move as another smokescreen to scapegoats, which characterizes the stealing junta in Yaoundé. This is so because many of such inquiries are opened, and at the end, no one knows their outcome, as La République du Cameroon corrupt presidency hosts the yam and the knife and has been abusing this powers on and indiscriminately, usually against those who do not toe the line, especially with the dictates of the ruling party CPDM. Also, it has been revealed that the in-house police officers, the commissioners, throw away the files of applicants and eat their fees. Now, it has been a headache for anyone to obtain a national identity card, that is the ID, in La République du Cameroon since 5 years or so since the La République du Cameroon was Zonia. The ordeal can only be compared to that of the biblical saying of being easy for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man. Revelations have proven while the corrupt La République du Cameroon police create scarcity in order to feed fat on innocent citizens, the police has been using the identity card as a bait to enrich themselves. For instance, when one is caught without it, you are even locked up as a criminal and you need to bail and sum of a particular sum of money and you are demanded to pay. Meanwhile, this paper officially costs barely 2,800 francs CFA. Many have paid a high price as the police accuse them as Amba boys, refusing to disclose their identities.
Well, the mafia is that many have gone to the police stations and duly established these cards and given temporal receipts, which expires in 3 months, and these have been renewed and renewed till forever. Well, no identity cards are being released. No permanent identity cards have been released yet. Now, following this testimony, a person says, I am writing to you concerning the problem of the ID in this country, Cameroon. This is what police commissioners do every 3 months. They register the IDs files. Each file is accompanied by the cost, which amounts to 2,800 francs CFA. When the quota of 2,800 times 5,000 is reached, they send 1,000 files to Yaoundé, and the other 4,000 files are destroyed, pocketing 11 billion 200 million franc CFA. in the process. You can imagine how much these commissioners eat. This is why some citizens receive their cards and others do not. And this testifier says, I faced the same problem.
Now, we have this other report. It says, being a Navy officer, I therefore myself went to Yaoundé to the production department to meet a commissioner friend. He's the one who checked and told me that my file has never arrived here for 2 years and therefore explained to me this level of corruption and embezzlement that the new commissioners have developed to enrich themselves on the backs of the people. Now, this victim went on that when you are tired of following date on the receipt, they will advise you to redo a new identity for them to extort more money. Now, he's not alone. This is the plight of many in a rotten system like La Republic du Cameroon. And now let's take sports. All right, this is just to inform you that this is not our last report for today. So you just hold on. We have two great reports still coming right after the sports. Today is a very special day for us here on Undaunted News. So we want to give you a different style. So in sports, Manchester United supporters trust say they will take legal action unless more away fans are allowed when the team plays at Chelsea later this month. They want Hammersmith and Fulham Council to issue a new safety certificate.
And this certificate is to allow the full allocation of 2,994 traveling supporters. United's allocation has been reduced to 2,370 because of policing concerns. Must said fans are being treated like second-class citizens. This is a spokesperson who added this. Gabalesin has more.
Latest world sports. Football. Manchester United Supporters Trust set to launch legal action over Chelsea away ticket allocation. Manchester United Supporters Trust say they will take legal action unless more away fans are allowed when the team plays at Chelsea later this month. They want Hammersmith and Fulham Council to issue a new safety certificate to allow the full allocation of 2,994 traveling supporters. United's allocation has been reduced to 2,370 because of policing concerns. Most said fans are being treated like second-class citizens, a spokesperson added. For supporters' trust to engage lawyers is always a last resort, but enough is enough. The Premier League confirmed last week that the match will kick off at 17:30 BST on Saturday, 22nd October. The match was initially scheduled for 16:30 on Sunday, 23rd October, but was moved to the Saturday because of Chelsea's Champions League fixture the following Tuesday. The Metropolitan Police said that because TV commitments prevented the high-risk fixture from starting by 16:45 on the rearranged date, which for safety purposes is the agreed cut-off time with London clubs on weekends. An alternative solution had to be reached. Our first priority in policing football and the increasing crime and disorder associated with it is the safety of fans and those who live and local community, said the Met. However, a letter to the council sent by most legal representatives highlighted that there is no history of significant disorder at previous matches between the two sides, which include matches that have kicked off later than 65. The letter states that if they do not receive a response by 1200 BST on Friday, 14th October, then must reserve the right to commence judicial review proceedings against the council without further notice. United fans and football supporters in general have had their feel of being on the receiving end of unfair and irrational by councils and the police, who seem to consider us to be a public order problem rather than ordinary people freely enjoying a day out, said a MOST spokesperson. Tickets had been sold for this game, and fans are being treated like second-class citizens. Chelsea Supporters Trust said it stands with MOST and also criticized the decision. American football. NFL. Las Vegas Raiders' Davante Adams has been charged with misdemeanor assault for shoving a photographer as he left the field after Monday's 30-29 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. The charge was filed in Kansas City Municipal Court on Wednesday. Ryan Zebley said he suffered whiplash, headaches, and possible minor concussion as a result of the shove. Sorry to the guy I pushed after the game, Adams later posted on Twitter. Obviously, very frustrated at the way the game ended, and when he ran in front of me, I exited. That was my reaction, and I felt horrible immediately. The 29-year-old added, "That's not me. My apologies, man. Hope you see this." Kansas City Police Department opened an investigation and called it an intentional overt act. Police report says the photographer was pushed to the ground, causing injury. He made arrangements for private transport to the hospital for treatment, at which time he called police. Adams, who joined the Raiders from the Green Bay Packers in the offseason, may also face disciplinary action from the NFL. He switched to the Raiders on a $141 million 5-year contract, saw him become the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
Beautiful sports reports there. Well, if you are not aware, this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, an annual campaign to raise awareness about the impact of breast cancer. According to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, you are required to ask your doctor when you should get a mammogram. Other than skin cancer, breast cancer is the most common cancer amongst American women. Mammograms are the best way to find breast cancer early. It is easier to treat and before it is big enough to feel or cause symptoms.
Now, are you worried about cost? CDC's National Breast and Cervical Cancer Early Detection Program offers free or low-cost mammograms to women who have low incomes and are uninsured or underinsured. To what extent do women in most African countries, especially Ambazonia during this time of war, benefit from these? Now, we're going to be finding out today what are the symptoms. There are different symptoms of breast cancer, and some people have no symptom at all. Now, the symptoms can include 1. Any change in the size or the shape of the breast. 2. Pain in any area of the breast. Nipple discharge other than breast milk, including blood, should be looked out for. Also, a new lump in the breast or underarm. If you have any of these signs that you worry about, you need to see a doctor right away.
Now, there is a lot you would wish to know about breast cancer, like the risk factors, how to lower your risk of getting it. That Dr. Patience Abiedu and Dr. Yaya Fonye will be presenting answers to, because tonight we'll have them in the studio with us to go through this part of Undaunted. But before then, we have some statistics on breast self-examination by Dr. Laura Krupa, a breast cancer surgeon of the City of Hope and the Pink Patch Project. Right after that, we will get into some specifics from our aforementioned panelists. Let's watch.
Hi, I'm Dr. Laura Kruper, one of the breast surgeons at City of Hope. Today I'm going to talk to you about self-breast examination. Around 8 out of 10 women detect breast cancers or breast lumps themselves. Therefore, it's important that every woman understand the basics of a self-breast examination. There are actually 2 components, look and feel. For the first part of the exam, looking, you want to stand or sit in front of a mirror. With your clothes off, you want to look at both breasts to see if there are any differences between the 2. Examine the nipples to see if there's any difference between the 2. Is one redder than the other? Is one pulling in? Then you want to put your hands on your hips and turn from side to side to see if there are any changes. While standing, you actually want to put your arms forward on your hips because this will bring out lumps that might not appear otherwise. It's important to raise both arms above the head. This will draw out any puckering or dimpling for masses that might be underneath the nipple. If you're standing like this and you have a mass that's kind of in the lower part, you might not see it at all. But when you raise your arms, what happens is that mass kind of stays and then the skin kind of pulls in as you're pulling up. That was the first part of the examination. For the second part, you want to be lying down. You want to put your head on a pillow to prop yourself up and place one arm behind your head. Then with your other hand, you want to use your first 3 fingers. Use only 1 finger or 2 fingers, you can actually separate the breast tissue and think that you feel something that isn't there. You can do this one of 2 ways. You can either go in a circular motion all the way around the breast, making sure that you overlap every area, or you can go up, down, all the way across. I prefer the circular motion from the collarbone to the sternum or mid chest, below the breast, and then all the way actually out into the underarm. Lymph nodes are underneath the underarm, and sometimes those can become bigger. When you're doing the breast examination, you're looking for things that feel different from the surrounding tissue. What you're looking for is something that stands out, something that feels like a pea or a marble or a walnut. You want to make sure that you do this examination same time each month. Remember, the most important thing about a breast self-examination is to know your breast. That way you can note any changes and alert your doctor.
All right, I'm sure that you've learned something from that report already. Learn how to self-examine yourself. If you're a woman, if you're a girl, just learn how to do so. You can always watch that video here on Undaunted. All right, just in case you do not know, color pink is used to also represent anything that has to do with the breast or the breast cancer month. All right, we have Dr. Patience Abiodun here. She's been here all along the way. So we just want to find out right away. Dr. Patience, how are you doing today?
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm glad to be here. Well, I lied. I'm coming down with a cold, so you can tell from my voice. But hopefully you can hear me well.
All right. Meanwhile, thank you for wearing the breast cancer color. Thank you for wearing the breast cancer color. So we just want to find out. I'm sure the women in Ambazonia wants to find out too. What are some of the risk factors that predisposes a woman to breast cancer, so that a woman can probably avoid them?
Yeah. So I'm glad you showed that video before we started that explains how to do breast self-examination. There are some risk factors that are basically unchangeable risk factors, some things that we have no control over. Risk factors include the fact that you're a woman. So being a female gender, that's number one risk factor. And then the second risk factor has to do with your age. The risk of getting breast cancer increases. In fact, at one time, it was known to be a menopausal disease where mostly women that have gone, that are in the menopause and beyond could get breast cancer. Although now we know occasionally that our young girls, 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, have been diagnosed with breast cancer. But age is a huge risk factor which you have no control over. The other one is genetics. Also, you have no control over the genes you were born with. There are some women that have a special genes that predisposes them to breast cancer. Then some women also have dense breast. And the reason that could be a problem is because it makes it difficult to diagnose it. You talk about self-examination. When you do self-examination, sometimes because of your breast being dense, it may be difficult to pick up those lumps that may be there. And even with a mammogram, sometimes it's difficult to pick the mass that may be growing. So a dense breast may be a problem. And then also race. It's known that people from African American descent and Caribbeans, for some reason, have the propensity to have breast cancer than the other races. So that's another risk factor that you have no control over. And then in terms of factors that are lifestyle risk factors, and these are things that we all have control over. You talk about being overweight. The fat has a tendency of being a source of estrogen, which can cause your chances of getting breast cancer to be increased. So obesity is a problem, and that we have control over. Radiation. So some people may have undergone radiation for one reason or the other. Maybe they were trying to treat another type of cancer. And when we talk about radiation, we're talking about high dose radiation. That is also predisposing risk factor. And then hormone replacement therapy. There was a time, especially in the industrial world, that each hormone replacement therapy, HRT, was very, very widespread because it's known to reduce the risk for cardiovascular disease. However, it was also discovered that people who took hormone replacement therapy had an increased likelihood of getting breast cancer. And so with that knowledge, women have, some of them decided not to take hormone replacement therapy because of fear of breast cancer, or those who do are likely to make sure that they go to their doctor on a frequent basis for physical examinations or do mammogram routinely. And then two other things are smoking and alcohol. Smoking, you have control over. Those who smoke have more of getting the risk of breast cancer, and those who drink alcohol, to know that just a drink a day, and a drink is considered 12 grams of alcohol. A drink a day increases your risk for about 7%. And then 2 to 3 drinks a day increases the risk to about 20%. So although women we're told to drink socially, that is good for the heart, it is the risk for breast cancer. Those are the risks we have out there, Onye.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Patience. It is always nice having you here. We also have Dr. Yaya with us. And this question goes to you, Dr. Yaya. What are the signs and symptoms of breast cancer? And what can a woman do to mitigate breast cancer if there is anything to do?
Thank you so much, our awesome anchor ladies. Thank you for the great work you do, Lady Start. Yes, what are the signs and symptoms of breast cancer? I think if we all watched the video, we would have had some hints on what to look out for. Generally, cancer, is a wasting disease, which means it causes weight loss, general fatigue, or tiredness, just lack of energy. Sometimes people have a lot of excessive sweating, but these are very non-specific symptoms that can also occur with other forms of cancer. So it's not peculiar to breast cancer. They're talking about breast cancer, particularly the signs would be on top of these general signs, the fact that you find irregularities, things that were not part of your usual breast. So if you see or you notice any changes on your breast, be it lumps or any bumps or changes in the texture, and it is not the same, is different from one side. I mean, one side is different from the other, and then that is a cause for concern. So this brings us again back to the basics of our, presentation today, which is really on the screening and prevention. The main thing to know about screening is that you must know your breast. Know your breast. I think we saw it in the video, and in many other videos, they're actually trying to educate women on self-breast examination. You must know what is normal for you, what is usual for you, in order to know what is different or when it becomes different. So that takes us again back, and we cannot emphasize enough on the need for every woman to simply know your breast. It seems very easy. We've seen those good videos, and there are so many of them on YouTube. So you can only know your breast by looking and feeling. And it is actually advised that this exercise be done every month, once a month at least. You look at look at the skin, look at the shape, and you look, because not the both breasts are hardly ever the same. So you must know what your baseline is in order to know what is abnormal if it becomes abnormal. So you can only do that by doing that regular exam of inspecting, which is looking, and then feeling with your hand. And if at some point you notice, oh no, last month this was very normal, and then this time around I can feel some lumps and bumps, that is a cause for concern. However, that doesn't necessarily mean you have breast cancer. because again, the breast is an organ that is also controlled by hormones. So it depends on what cycle of your what phase of your cycle you are. Sometimes you have more fibrous tissue. So it is important to do it at a particular time so that when you're comparing, you know that this is the same time of the month. And we generally advise people to do so once in a month, whether it's the beginning of the month or mid-month. It is very important to know your breast, and therefore, if you see anything different, I mean, we have those signs written in the textbook, but it can be very different for different people. For some, it is an obvious lump that you can actually see. Just putting your hands up, and you can notice that there's something different. For others, it can be an itch, it can be just an irritation, and then the skin just gets rough or scaly, and then they think, oh, maybe I just have a little scratch, and then you have an ulceration, and before you know it, it may not even be lumpy until you do a biopsy, and then it comes out to be cancer. So it's important to look for change. So you must know what is normal for you before looking for what is different.
All right. I don't think
I
you
hope
quite
that
addressed the
answers
part where what a lady can do to actually mitigate, breast cancer, basically.
So you mean what a lady needs to do to prevent or avoid
Yes, and
breast
yeah,
cancer?
have less effect of it. Yes.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think Mape explained very well. And by the way, good evening, Mape. That there are some factors that are, are stable factors, and there are some that are, sorry, what is the word? It's not stable. Some that are changeable, some that are not changeable. Exactly. So if you are unfortunate, or if a woman is unfortunate to have the genetic predisposition to having breast cancer, then the chances, I'm saying the chances, it doesn't mean that you must have it. The chances of you having breast cancer is increased. And if you know that there is a familial, that breast cancer is common in your family. Let's say you have a sister, or you have a cousin, or you have cousins, many females in the family, or your mother or your auntie who had breast cancer, that might be a hint that there is a hereditary or a genetic predisposition, and it's important for you then to undergo genetic screening. Now, of course, we're focusing on our people in vulnerable, so they might not have access to these tests, but I think it's important. So you need to see a doctor and just tell them that this is common in my family. And for those who are in situations where they have good healthcare systems, those genetic tests are usually out. And if they find out that you have that, then you're going to go through a lot of a series of counseling, because it's a big thing to deal with. And there are people, I mean, extreme cases, worst case scenario, people have to actually undergo breast surgery, removing their breast just as a prophylaxis to avoid them having cancer. So that's one of the things if you have the gene. But then a lot of us don't just go and say, oh, Mr. Doctor, please check if I have cancer gene, right? So what can we do? A healthy lifestyle always predisposes you to, first of all, a healthy immune system generally. I don't think that there's any specific thing that you can do to say, okay, this is going to reduce my risk of getting cancer. But your general health, being healthy as a whole, generally improves your outcome, of fighting any form of disease, including cancer. And then thinking of how to prevent breast cancer, I think Mape mentioned the point of radiation. Again, we're living in, especially for those of us living in the Western world, there's a lot of pollution, and not only in the Western world, and also we undergo a lot of radiation through tests. Sometimes it could be our workplaces. So these are things that people need to be aware of, especially for those in the diaspora, because we came out here for greener pastures, so to say. Sometimes we're just crazy doing jobs just to earn money. But it's important to always think about your health. your environment, the exposure to rays, and also just having unnecessary x-rays even by your doctor. I mean, actually now the common practice is a young woman who comes with, you would hardly want to do an x-ray, uh, especially when they're young, because you're increasing the amount of radiation, and by the time they get older they would have had maybe enough exposure to have actually caused a cancer, try to diagnose something. Yeah. So I think those are the
I think that
things I
actually
can think of
answers
for
very
now.
much the question. Raise exposure to raise. Yeah, thank you so much. That really does answer it. Thank you so much, Dr. Yaya. I believe only you have another question.
Yes, but
may
my
I add
question would be to
couple?
Dr. Abiedu. Dr. Yaya has emphasized, in addition, you have said that when you have a healthy lifestyle, it can help as well. But then let's just say there have been some mistakes along the way. How can a woman help to detect this early cancer, and what can she do?
Okay, sure. Before I
Like, is
answer
there?
that, if you permit
Yeah.
me, before I answer that, if you permit me, I just want to add a few things to what Dr. Yaya said in terms of the signs and symptoms, because sometimes we may just ignore certain things. So I just want to bring some words so that we know exactly what we're looking for. She mentioned that I think people should know that if there's any what do you call it, dimple on your breast, where your breast looked normal before, then soon you see a dimple, like something internal that goes into, this is a dimple on my cheek. So something like this on your breast is abnormal, right? So that's one thing. If you see thickened skin around the breast, that is an abnormality, pardon me. She already mentioned about the sizes of the breast changing. And then if you see a red spot on your breast that was not there before, that is an abnormality. You see an enlarged vein. Some people have veins on their breast that it's not supposed to be there. You see an enlarged vein, that's an abnormality. You see a sore or wound on your breast, that's an abnormality. And then, of course, the discharge. If you press your nipple and there's a discharge, that's an emergency if it's not breast milk. So I just wanted to add those to what Dr. Yas said. And also to the other part of what you can do. Physical activity is very important. Those of us who are very active, if you are exercising every day, that's one thing you have under your control that can minimize getting breast cancer. You cut down on how much liquor you drink. If you were somebody who was drinking a lot of alcohol, you need to cut down on how much alcohol you drink. And if you're smoking, you have to absolutely stop smoking. If you're overweight, you have to lose weight. So those are things that you can do to mitigate getting breast cancer. And then your question, can you repeat your question? I had all this to say and I forgot what your question was, Onye, please.
Okay, now I clearly understand, because I mean all of these you've said are also very, very important. I'm saying that what can a woman do when she has detected this very early, probably at the first or second stage? What are those home remedies that she can do, or probably health remedies that she can do when she has detected probably some of these symptoms, like the lump and the spots and the dimples that you've just mentioned? What can a woman do?
Okay, so immediately the woman has to seek medical advice. You have to go to the doctor. These are things that we normally should not take it for granted and think that you can self-treat. You need to go to the doctor because based on what they miss, you may have to have a mammogram done to diagnose it. I saw a video, believe me, of a young girl in her 30s that just had an itch on her breast. And she ignored it for a couple of months. And finally, she said, I have 2 kids. Let me go see what is going on. Lo and behold, she went to the doctor's office. The doctor said, oh, maybe it's nothing, but let's just have you go do a mammogram. And she went for a mammogram, and they discovered that she had breast cancer. So beyond you doing and just relaxing, you need to seek doctor's advice and go for more treatment. They may do a program, and based on that, if it's not conclusive, they will do a biopsy. And only then can you rest assured that you've done all in your part. I really don't know about natural remedies back home. I don't know that there are things back home that we can take outside of going to a real medical institution to self-treat ourselves. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm sure that they may exist, but I'm not in the position to advise people to do that.
Yes, just to ask and just for us to clarify things. Are there food or probably fruits that can help? If you say you're not sure of some natural remedies, what about food or fruits?
Okay, we know that there are certain types of food that are rich in antioxidants. These are most of the foods that are very colorful, like carrots, bell pepper, um, um, green leafy vegetables. So those are just foods that are generally good for well-being in general. Avocado, and if you consume the colors, they say if you have the rainbow colors every day in your nutrition, then your chances of fighting diseases that are supposed to be due to the environment increases. So everybody should try to eat the rainbow every day. Now, some of our people are living in very poverty-stricken areas that they may not have access to all of this, but try to get like at least one or two. We have tomatoes back home, eat tomatoes. We have carrots back home, eat carrots. We have green vegetables back home. We are lucky. We have rich, fertile land. Eat those things. Stay away from things that are in cans and bottles. We grew up, we used to think that those things that came from cans and which show and influence were good things. My goodness, far be it from the truth. Those are things that cause cancer. So let's eat the natural things that come out from the soil every day, and those are things that you can do. I hope I answered that question, Onye.
Yes, you did. All right, let's have Dr. Yaya now. Star, you have
Sure,
something
I
for
do.
Dr. Yaya.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prince. We would like the dimples over here. And yes, Dr.
Thank you.
Yaya, moving on. For those who already diagnosed with breast cancer, I believe it sort of like has a psychological impact on them. What do you think like family and friends can do to be supportive to patients with breast cancer?
Oh, sorry, I think I missed the first part. You believe there is
You know, people with breast cancer, it has a psychological effect on them in a way. So what do you think friends and family could do to be supportive to this person?
wow. I think that's a very, very, very important question you touched there, because at the end of the day, we can talk about statistics and all of that, and it is talking about a topic. But for patient, this is a real serious situation they're dealing with. And if you listen to a survivor speak, interesting today, for some actually had two patients who came for something else, but they were cancer survivors. And I thought, oh my God, is this a coincidence or something? But these are people, we all know that our life on earth is very limited. We're all going to die one day. But how many people really wake up every day thinking, oh, this could be the last day? That's not the situation when you're in good health, because you take it for granted. When someone is faced with a diagnosis of cancer, think about it. A lot of times they are even told that, oh, you have this and this expected time to still be alive. So that's a big deal to deal with. A lot of people actually get into depression. That is one of the things that speeds up, their demise rather than the disease itself. So I'm giving this background to say that the psychological and social management around this disease is absolutely very important. So as family and friends, this is really when you need to be there for that person. Even if it's just to listen to them, you don't need to preach. Sometimes it's just to listen and just let them cry out, and probably not even always engage them in the topic, because they already have specialists. Because once you get from the point of diagnosis, I'm talking about this part of the world. God help us what is happening in our country right now, but we hope that that will change. Once you're given that diagnosis, you have an entire team. Uh, and actually break the bad news is you actually have to come. It is recommended that the patient comes with their relative or close ones because they know that they will need that emotional, psychological support to sit there whenever they, and just give them some tissue when they're crying. A long journey because first of all, there is the anger of why me? Why has this happened to me? And there's the fear that you're confronted with, the fear of daily facing death. That's huge. That's huge. And then you have the treatment side of things.
Please, just hold on. Let me ask you. Early detection can save life, right?
Definitely. This is where the emphasis is. The emphasis is on early detection. Early, so screening, regular screening, and that is cheap. That doesn't cost money. You yourself, every woman should make sure you learn how to feel your breast. We have seen those videos, they're all on YouTube, TikTok, whatever. Just make sure you do that monthly, and you also look in the mirror and look at your skin and pick out those signs as Mape has explained, whether it's redness, it is itchiness, it's scaliness, it's just some irregular skin, they call it orange skin, or it could be, an ulcer where there's a wound, there's pus coming out or blood, or your dimple, or the nipple being different on one side compared to the other, um, so long as that wasn't the case before. So you look for those signs. Anything that is different, make sure you seek medical help.
All right.
You seek a doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. I just have to cut you there. Now, let's say someone does not see all of these signs you're talking about, the symptoms you're talking about, like the redness and all of those, the dimples and the rest. But this person has a genetics problem, probably it's hereditary or something. It's found in their blood, in the family blood, and all of that. Do you advise that that person seek medical help on time? Not because the person has seen the signs, but because it has some traces in the family. So would you advise that such persons begin on time to seek advice, or that person should wait till probably some of those signs begins to show off? What would you advise here, Dr. Yaya?
Definitely. Early medical assistance is you're always on the best footing because early detection means if you have it could be caught at an early stage whereby the treatment is not going to be so extensive. It could just be the local removal of the lump because it is small and it hasn't spread to your lymph nodes or to other organs. So, but the longer, so what we're saying here is screening and then taking action. You're not screening and then sitting at home. If you know that your cousins, your sister, your mom, your auntie had breast cancer, then you must be you must be a candidate for intensive screening. Even without the signs, if you're doing your regular checks and doing breast exam and you still don't find anything, generally, again, it depends on what healthcare ultrasound, at least of the breast, um, is recommended. Sorry, sonography. Yeah, yeah, we call it that way. It's recommended for women above 40 and above 50. Generally, you would have, if you have a good doctor, or depending on the health, you will have a letter, or you will have your doctor reminding you to come for a mammogram so that they can screen you, because as we know, it is a disease that also comes with aging. So we're talking about self breast examination that is at your level as an individual. And if you notice any difference or any problem or any concern, just see your doctor, who then knows better and will know the next test to do. Again, not every lump is breast cancer, but it is good to at least over investigate and then be sure that it is not breast cancer than to say, no, no, this is just a fibrous notch or something. And then eventually it turns out to be breast cancer. So I hope I'm actually answering your questions. I feel like I've gone out of topic. So, Lady Onye, are you with me?
Yes. That means you weren't hearing me. Yes, you answered it perfectly. Thank you for that clarification. So this is more like an advice to everyone there. You do not have to wait till you start seeing the sign. Begin to go for early examination. Thank you so much, Dr. Yaya, for that sweet response and explanation. We appreciate you.
Of course, only
Thank you.
doctors in Undaunted Newsroom could have answered it as perfectly as you did, Dr. Yaya. And now to you, Dr. Patience Abiedu. This final question is to you. Undaunted Newsroom did a research on breast cancer burden in Africa with evidence from Globocan 2018. From the source, breast cancer is the leading malignancy in African females. The study was aimed at examining the breast cancer burden in Africa using Globocan 2018 estimates. Now, methods employed in the research, the incidence and mortality estimates of age and country-wise burden of breast cancer in 54 African countries were obtained from Globocan 2018. And according to the results in Africa, breast cancer caused 74,072 deaths and 168,690 cases were estimated to have occurred in 2018 alone. Now, the age standardized incidence rate stood at 39.9 over 100,000 in Africa, varying from 6.9 over 100,000 in the Gambia to 69.6 over 100,000 in Mauritius. The age standardized mortality rate stood at 17.2 over 118, ranging from 4 over 100,000 in the Gambia to 29.1 over 100,000 in Somalia in 2018. Nigeria was the leading country in terms of absolute burden with 26,310 cases and 11,564 deaths, and followed by Egypt, which had 23,081 new cases and 9,254 deaths. The mortality to incidence ratio for Africa stood at 0.44, varying from 0.24 in Libya to 0.68 in the Central African Republic. Now, these are just basic statistics. There was no official data from the Cameroons, but considering the fact that Nigerian, Gambia, etc., are subjected to almost the same conditions like those in Amazonia, definitely would not be far from an estimate. Now, Dr. Patience, as the Secretary of State for Women's Services, you are directly involved with policymaking during this time of war. How do you tackle breast cancer burden in Amazonia with the main challenges being late-stage disease presentation, lack of screening and therapeutic infrastructure, lack of awareness, and limited resources? How do you tackle breast cancer burden in Amazonia?
Wow, Star, that is a very heavy question. I'll do my best to answer it. Incidentally, today, October 13th, is known in the United States as Metastatic Breast Cancer Day or Breast Cancer Awareness Day. And when the cancer has metastasized to other parts of the body, then the chances of being cured decreases, pardon me. Okay. Your question about policies for the case of Amazonia is very important. And I think the Department of Women's Services has to work with the HSS to come up with something that will be foolproof to help our women and our girls. Basically, based on what we've already discussed today, we learn from experience, we learn from the developed world. A policy that has preventive measures included and treatment included will have the resources, financial resources or not, and education included, will be able to counteract the problem of breast cancer that is so predominant in Africa. Such a policy starts with education. When we talk about self-examination, you have to tell our girls, because remember, breast cancer, although we know that it's a disease of the elderly, of older women, we are finding it in younger women, younger girls. I mean, you've heard of girls in their 20s, 30s dying of breast cancer. So this policy has to have that also incorporated in, that you have to educate the girls as to when to start doing self-examination. And that's something that we probably didn't mention, that for those who have their periods, the best time to do self-breast examination is after your period. So if you choose that time of the month right after your period to do your breast examination every month, then you get to know your breast for years and years and years. And as you get older, any changes you'll be able to detect. Incidentally, most breast cancers are detected by people that do self-examination. So that policy will implement the importance of self-examination through education. Then secondly, that policy must include preventive care where women that are menopausal have to go in for mammogram on a yearly basis. Sometimes if you have genetic predisposition, let's say you have family members that have passed on because of breast cancer, then you probably have to go in yearly. But if you don't, they may have the policy that go every other year, as is done in the United States of America. And then there has to be a position where people have free access to healthcare, which is not what we have in Cameroon right now. I mean, for people die because they don't have simple money to buy basic medication. We will not have that in Ambazonia. We will have a position where healthcare will be accessible to everyone, regardless of your income, regardless of your position, regardless of your race. So I think things like this, when incorporated in a policy, education, preventive healthcare, and maintenance in terms of you getting mammogram yearly or every other year, depending on your possibilities of getting the disease, will all be incorporated to have a policy that will be very, very beneficial for the population. I hope I answered your question, Star.
Yes.
If not, thank you so much.
No. You absolutely did. You absolutely did. Thank you so much, Dr. Patience. I think from everything so far, one would say basically check for the pre signs before it even matures. Check for signs like all the signs you've listed, the discharge from the nipple, the dimple on the nipple, and all the signs itching on the breast. So people basically have to check for these signs and then go meet a doctor before it turns into before it gets too late, actually. So thank you so much, Dr. Patience. You did answer that question. And thank you so much to Dr. Yaya Oni. I don't know if you have something.
Yes, and yeah, thank you so much. I mean, it's amazing that when we want to talk about serious issues, Ambazonia can boast of all qualified and professional hands. I mean, that's just to attest to how great that we are. Thank you so much, Dr. Yaya. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, for all the education, for all your calmness, for all your smiles. Thank you so much. We appreciate, and we know that we'll definitely have you some other time.
I'm muted. Dr. Yaya, you're muted.
Oh my God, so sorry. Thank you, Lady Onye and Lady Star Smart, for the wonderful work you do. Amazonia remains forever grateful to you people. I just wanted to add that even though breast cancer is common in women predominantly, it does occasionally occur in men. So just for general health, general well-being, and most often it's interesting. It is the partners that tend to pick up, these sort of cancers for obvious reasons. It goes out to a man as well, that one breast is particularly bigger than another. Please make sure you seek help because men do get breast cancer as well. Of course, not as common as prostate cancer. I have a question from the public. Am I permitted to maybe read it if we have time?
Well, we still
If
have
not, it's
Barrister
okay.
Team. We still have Barrister Team.
Oh,
He's
right.
here in the studio. We
Okay.
wouldn't want to keep him waiting for so long. He's
That's
been with
okay.
us here from the beginning of the Undaunted News Report. So we
Sure.
wouldn't want to keep him waiting for so long. But I'm sure that would have some other time next week to talk about these and talk about some other aspects of breast cancer. We
Definitely.
can't talk about it and exhaust all of it
Yeah.
today.
Thank you so much. I just want to remind people, everybody that on the horizon, I don't know if MAPE announced that, next week we're going to have a broader panel, and we're inviting everybody, be you a survivor or someone going through breast cancer or a relative or carer. And we're also looking for people who deal with this at a professional level, talking about oncologists or gynecologists. And we actually had to do a disclaimer. We are not specialists in this field, so this is general knowledge. So in case we say this place your doctor or your first primary carer, so that is something we need to say. So thank you, Mape. It's always a pleasure being with you.
Thank you so much.
You're great.
Thank you, Star. Thank you, Onye, for having us today. Thank you so much.
All right,
Thank you, ladies. You're wonderful.
Thank you.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Right now, moving on to the interim government's position. The interim government will not be part of any talks without a mediator agreed upon by both La République du Cameroon and Ambazonia. The president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, has made it abundantly clear to the international community and to bona fide Ambazonians that the interim government, which he leads, cannot be part of any talks aimed at ending the genocidal war on Ambazonia when a mediator has not been agreed upon by the belligerent parties. Now, this position is contained in a press release signed October 6, 2022, that we brought to you by Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako and reiterated in another press release issued on October 11th, 2022 by the Interim Government Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Dr. Martin Mungwa. In these communiques, it is stated inter alia that because of La République du Cameroon's outright rejection of the Swiss-led process, Switzerland pulled out as a mediator of any possible talks between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon. Now, these releases further buttresses the point that in a conflict with international dimensions like the one in question, it is appropriate for the mediator to be mandated by both sides of the conflict, the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, led by the interim government, on the one hand, and La République du Cameroon, led by its colonial government, on the other hand. Now, the communiques expressed doubts on the role of the Canadian government in such talks, having had their endorsement only from one party, now La République du Cameroon, and in order to avoid manipulations, the nonchalant and non-commitment attitude of La République du Cameroon, the interim government posits thus: there must be an official commitment by both sides, the Federal Republic of Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon, after a mediator is mandated. Now, the said mediator must make it public to the national and international stakeholders about their roadmap, the agenda, date, venue, and etc. for the talks must be made known by both parties, by the mediator. Now, it is the mediator who convenes the meeting, not any party. He or she must guarantee safety and security of participants, delegations from both sides, the Federal Republic of Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon.
Now, the stand of the interim government debunks and dismisses certain headlines in pro-La République du Cameroon newspapers like the Garden Post in its Thursday, October 13, 2022 edition featuring misleading captions as Canada reportedly fronting fresh dialogue to end Anglophone crisis, Sako-led Amba Junior interim government gives conditions to quite misleading indeed. Now, it is worthy to note that Sako-led interim government is very grounded, and the one IG that has proven its worth on the ground, both at home front and in diaspora, its groundbreaking records are unfathomable. It is said that when one is bitten by a snake, fear the millipede or a worm. Learning from past experiences, the decision taken by the interim government is laudable. In 1960 to 1961, in Fumbam, La République du Cameroon aborted the first genuine dialogue. The federal constitution was not approved by the parliament in Boya or Yaoundé. President Ahidjo promulgated the draft into law without debate and the lawless fashion of La République du Cameroon. In 1966, they dissolved our institutions and political parties without debate or dialogue in search of a unitary state.
And now, moving on to 1972, they changed the form of state between a supposedly two states of equal status without dialogue. In 1984, La République du Cameroon changed the name of the country, decree reverting to her former name prior to independence, thereby seceding from the body. Now, federation without dialogue. In 1992, John Frundi won presidential elections, but being an Ambazonian, France seized it. In 1993 to 1994, they refused to dialogue at AAC1 in Boya and AAC2 in Bamenda. In 1996, they also refused to organize a sovereign national conference with the mandate for genuine dialogue. Recently, in 2017, they refused to dialogue with our consortium of civil society organizations. And in 2019, while in Paris, Mr. Biya bragged to the international community how French-speaking Cameroon has tried to assimilate the Southern people but failed because of identity differences. In 2022, they rejected a Swiss-led mediation process for genuine dialogue. La République du Cameroon is now lying to the international community that they have won the war and peace has now returned to Ambazonia and reconstruction is underway.
Once beaten, twice shy, it is said. Ambazonia, through its interim government led by President Sako, is sending a powerful message to the international community that enough is enough. It is time to sit at the negotiation table and decide terms of separation. We cannot go to another from band 61 years later. Those in Canada and the Canadian authorities must know that you can't fool all the people all the time. They should ask themselves what became of the so-called major national dialogue? What became of the CDN? They should stop making safari trips, squandering taxpayers' money, chasing shadows, avoiding the substance. At this point, our news director, Chapati King, and our Barrister Tim Bisia, would enhance the discussion to give clarity to this debate and the interim government's position. Mr. Chapati King, are you there?
Thank you very much, Onye, for the wonderful briefing there. Thank you for the great news. I understand when issues pertain to women, it will take us a lot more time because they have to exhaust whatever is necessary. It was educative. I think I've also learned for husbands, you need to learn so that you can help your wives and perhaps your daughters. It's important that you learn this information. And I'm also told that men can also have breast cancer. It was an educative session of Undaunted this evening, and we have learned. Yes, the report is very clear, it's manipulative. The Guardian Post has been on the front lines, attempting at every given chance to, to psychologically intimidate our people, in most cases, manipulating them of the interim government's position. The caption which we saw in their headlines was a terrible manipulation. The president and the interim government, there is nothing in context as the interim government led by Dr. Sako. there is the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Whoever calls themselves interim government, and we're going to send a rejoinder to the post or to the Guardian post in this regard. I think we did that before. We're going to do it again. And we're not doing it because we are purportedly big mouthing on Facebook, claiming legitimacy and seeking for Canada invitation. We're doing so because of legality. There are two things before I get Barrister Team on board. There are two things in a movement like ours that gives you the legality: the support of the people, not in noise on social media, but the support of the people based on their engagement. And engagement, even scripture says that your giving determines where your heart is, the desire of a man's heart. So the people of Amazonia are giving lavishly. They're giving their emotional, their moral and financial support behind President Sako as an endorsement of his leadership for them. The second thing is the processes and protocols that led into the interim government that the president is now leading. The one and only interim government of Amazonia that President Sako is leading is legal, is legitimate. It does not defy us as a people, our interim constitution, or terms of references. So we are not charlatans. We are fleeing from a gangsteric movement, and therefore we will not tolerate, permit in any shape and or form a French Cameroonian like of governance, or what France does in French Africa, where they use charlatans and rebels to overtake democratic or bypass democratic processes and find themselves at the helm of leadership. That will not happen in Amazonia. First of all, the candidates that they opted for are weak men and women, and they do not have the capacity to impose such leadership on Amazonia. Now, without any waste of your time, I will be inviting Barrister Tim Besia. Barrister Tim, good evening and welcome.
Thank you, sir, once more for inviting me. I'm here, and I hope I will contribute successfully and fruitfully. Again,
Yes,
thank
I'm
you very
sure
much.
you must have read the headline of the Guardian Post. This is not the first time you have the Guardian Post purporting things that are not accurate. I believe they are mistaken with social media throws. I'm aware that Mr. Arnold on social media is claiming legitimacy. I think I saw a video in that regard and pleading for invitation. And this perhaps might have led to some confusion. But then there is no statement sent out by the interim government that seemed to suggest that the interim government is giving conditions to participate in the Canada conference. You are an official in this government. You most probably have heard and read and perhaps advised the documents that the interim government has sent out. I would like you to make a statement in that regard, to set a platform that will enable us to commence the discussions this evening.
I think when we look at the Guardian Post, we have to take into consideration one thing. They are a newspaper operating in Cameroon. And so, whatever thing they say, they try to tilt it to be in favor of the government. Otherwise, they risk being shut down. But that's not the excuse. Say a newspaper reports the news. You don't fabricate the news. To the best of our knowledge, this interim government is the only one that has put out a written statement concerning the proposed Canadian talks. And so if you're a newspaper, that's the only paper you have before you. You cannot describe that paper as the interim government led by A, B, or C. Call it what it is. You're just a reporter. That's a statement from the interim government signed by the president.
If you have two, three, you can then be able to comment. But without any more than one, just report what is there. And I may go further to add this. I don't know how old people in the so-called guardian post are, or most of us even. We were in primary school and partly secondary. We learned something in English, in the English language, called reported speech. I'm not sure they do it even today in the university. It was the most difficult part of the English language. And when we were doing reported speech, it came during the exams. What was it? They brought you a piece of paper written, somebody said something, then they asked you to put that thing in reported speech. It was the most difficult part of the language. For somebody looking at us now and reporting exactly what we say. People don't know how to do it. So there are two possibilities when you look at what the Guardian Post and other newspapers are doing. First, they might just be ignorant of what they're doing, innocent. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to put their story. Secondly, they are politically influenced. They are manipulated to play the game in favor of who they like. That's natural. That happens like that. But as far as the interim government is concerned, that should not be our problem. The Yaoundé regime is not learning about the position of the interim government from the Guardian Post. Now, they have it directly to them. They have it on their tables. So to think that they can do that to sell the Yaoundé propaganda is a lie. Their famous Gabon Tribune has not said anything. Their Minister of Communication has not said anything. The Yaoundé government, the Prime Minister's office, and all the relevant departments, they have our position. I can guarantee you they have the position there with them. So as much as they can go around and doctor things to favor to say what they like, that is not going to change anything at all. It's not going to change anything. For as written in the Bible, the sheep know the shepherd. If this thing is being addressed to Ambazonians who are 90% on the home front, they know where we stand. Guardian posts, I don't know what relationship they have. The people can distinguish between left and right. They're not going to influence anything. Thank you very much.
And this leads us to this discussion of the so-called Guardian, or is it Canada conference. I think we need to expand on it a lot more. You said they proposed, but I think that was an imposition. It was a dictatorship. Proposing meaning perhaps they would have sent to us some form of letter suggesting that they are thinking that we need to have a conference or something. What do we think? Or we need to have a discussion. But they actually just organized it and invited us. It's like, you're telling your child, I've done this and I want to see you at this place at this time. Is that notion of trying to tell us, listen, you are a subject under our nation, and we think that whatever you're saying, come and meet us, let's talk. That is not a way, a rendezvous of equal parties is set up. Am I wrong with that analogy?
I think we have to be careful what we say and do. To the best of my knowledge, at the time we reacted, I don't even know where right now the meeting is holding. Maybe it's holding 2 days old, 3 days old. But at the time we wrote, I think it was a proposed meeting that we were going to hold. Secondly, I don't know. Maybe I don't know where they ever invited us. And if they invited us, how did they do it? Telephone call, written letter, how did they invite us? We were invited. Until we have these
Yeah.
details with us. You see, national issues are not issues that you take your telephone call and call even the prime minister. Even in Yaoundé, President Paul does not just call the prime minister. Administration is written. He
Yeah.
writes to say, we propose this, do this, do this, do this. So I don't know whether the president had an invitation. I cannot say. But to the best of my knowledge, I don't know. So to say they invited us and to other terms, I don't know whether they even invited
Is an
us.
overstatement.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you are right to say, because the president did not officially. So perhaps by default, we're reacting. And it is even criminal if we are not invited. That I think is a message. If we were not invited, let's consider for 1 second that Ambania interim government and the president was not invited in any discussion that is pertaining to the peoples of Amazonia. It's a message. You better, as I would say, as a veteran diplomat, you've worked with the United Nations. There are languages that you understand. You may understand that even better than I do. That is a message. So who is there?
I think
What does this
I
person
think
represent?
again,
What do they hope to achieve with this person? It's a lot.
I think again when we say invited, if we had an invitation, there's a lot to read into the invitation. We have been talking about the Swiss-led negotiation.
Yeah.
We did not expect an invitation from Yaoundé. Say we invite you to go to Switzerland. Now, the other party does not invite the other one. So they did not need to invite us. If it was a genuine discussion, what will happen behind the scene is that the parties will agree on the negotiator, on the mediator, or whatever name you give him. Based on that agreement, it is the mediator, the negotiator, who will send out invitations and say, based on our agreement, you are invited to be here in London, to be here in China, to be here in Addis Ababa on this date for this and this and this. So when I say, what was the form of invitation, I should be very, very careful with the words we use. If President Paul Biya had taken his phone and called President Sako, I invite you to a conference in Toronto or to a conference in Quebec, that will not make any difference because he's inviting us to his conference. So it doesn't change the basics. In a conflict, they could solve, if it was a local conflict to be solved in Yaoundé, the president will call his governors, he will call his prefects, he will call his CPD, whatever thing, and they will converge as they did in the tripartite. But in a conflict of this dimension, let us make the reverse. Could President Sako or President Choyaba or President Anu write a letter to Mr. to Mr. Paul Biya Yaoundé, I invite you for us to meet in Kumba?
You know,
How does that sound
Ambazonians,
like?
just so you know, Ambazonians that you call President Sako, and then you start categorizing the others as
No, I'm
president.
just giving examples
A lot
of
of
people
Ambazonians may
on the
take
other
it.
side.
I know
Let
you're
us
trying
assume
to
that
be
they're even all,
of it
yeah,
or
let us just agree
spirit.
they're all honest Ambazonians and they were
Yes.
looking for a peaceful solution. Will Paul Biya respond to our invitation for many of us, inviting him to come meet us in Kumba, not even out of the country, or in Manfe, or in Womb? He will laugh at you. Who are you to invite him? So in the ordinary type of thing, that is not what it happens. We were not invited. Even if somebody had given the president a phone call, that is not an invitation. It was a rambler. Even if the Canadian ambassador gave me a call, oh, we're trying to have a conference, that is not an invitation. He's just trying to hear what he would say. It's not an invitation. Like we said, an invitation carries a lot. Where we are going even just to Kumba, you ask, how will I get to Kumba? We're just going to Bamanda. How will I get to Bamanda? Where will I sleep? Now who will be my messenger for door?
No.
How many people they come with? He asked these questions in any invitation. Even going for a wedding, they invite you for a wedding, master and missus. You cannot come with your invitation card, you and your wife and your 5 children. You have no places on the table. Thank you.
But as a team, we cannot deny the fact that the propaganda behind this conference is to end the Anglophone crisis. Though some of us do not accept the appellation Anglophone, but you know they're referring to us. So Cameroon is playing the. This is what the post is trying to do. It's a propaganda warfare. It's a psychological warfare, and you just heard the Undaunted ladies telling us the impact of that in during war times. Cameroon is telling the world, listen, I am interested in my own way. It's an insult anyway, to provide a solution my way, and I'm inviting them to come. And the media in Cameroon is doing justice to that objective. So that is not to contradict you, but to get you back into that question in another form. You are saying we've not received an invitation, but definitely there are Southern Cameroonians. Even the president has attested that there are Southern Cameroonians going to Canada to sit and to have a conversation. And these individuals are purportedly going to be talking on behalf of Amazonia. What are the technicalities involved? There's been a wide debate. You have people like Scott Johnson insisting that everywhere they're talking about Amazonia, we should be there. You have Bo Herbert has written largely. He even sent another additional information earlier on today to counter that discussion categorically, that we cannot be there. The interim government also believes that we should not be in such clandestine talks. Don't you think there is much in it for us to be vigilant, especially when it comes to sensitizing our people that may assume that we are disinclined to immediate solutions?
I think what we should do is, or what we should remember, is that this is not the beginning of the conflict. The conflict started way back in 2016 at the time of Philomon Yang as the prime minister. They invited people to meetings in Bamenda and refused even to let the people in Boya come in. They invited people to Yaoundé. It did not work. Their aim was to avert what is happening now. It did not work. Fast forward, they invited people to the Grand National Dialogue. People were there. Ambassadors were there. Even people of prominent names. Late Cardinal Tumi, Agwambala, and whatever, ministers, they were all there. If it worked, why are they still inviting people somewhere else? Most people say, okay, you cannot do this thing in Cameroon. Go and hold a meeting outside with the people. They tried this before. The CDN in Canada a year ago, October is exactly a year now. Most of us, including myself, we believe that it was Yaoundé sponsored. They held it. There were ambassadors there. They were Mbakoro. They were Choyaba. All these people were there. A year into it, it did not work. If it had worked, they would not be calling another one now. Now, instead of going to Toronto, we should see the same Canada. I hear they're going to Quebec or they're sitting in Quebec. What difference does it make? Was it the name Toronto that killed it? Was it the name Yaoundé that killed the Grand National Dialogue? No. So, until they learn to do the right thing, if the aim of this invitation is to end the war, they are not feeling as fine as we think. If the aim is to end the war, they are nowhere near ending the war. This will never end the war. What is the difference? The participation because Dion Gote will come from Cameroon? Absolutely no difference. Or because the mayor will come from Wum or from Banso or from Kumba. What's the difference between a mayor attending a meeting in Yaoundé and flying to the United States or flying to Canada? The only difference is that guy gets an outstation allowance. We all know what they will say. So the most important thing I think where is we have stated our position. We are standing by it. They know that they cannot succeed in stopping the war without us on the table. That's a fact. With all due respect, Bo Herbert that you are mentioning, Bo Herbert, when they were holding the Toronto thing last year, he told them it was not going to work. He didn't even go there even as Bo Herbert, not even to talk about his Morris. He did not work. We're a year into it. And I've had the opportunity to say here, prior to the Toronto talks of last year, the CDN, I personally, I was invited. Not only invited, they contacted me, almost all the organizers, urging me to plead with President Sako to be there with the IG. I said, we're not going there. We're not preventing you from holding your meeting in Toronto,
Barrister T,
but we are not
one
coming
thing
there.
that I really, Barrister T, one thing that is quite concerning, you can hear somebody listening to you now, hearing, listening to the words, plead with Dr. Sako to be part, and you think perhaps they're genuine, owing to the fact that they're not genuine. What is their objective to just have President Sako represented? Is something very vital that I think Ambazonians would have to know.
No, the objective, if you look back again, remember the APNC 3 4 years ago. When the APNC, that was essentially organized by Siseko from prison and his team, started, they invited President Sako. I was one of the people who said we will not go there. Go hold your APNC. But we're not coming there. The idea is to bring you among the several so that once you are there, it is a question of vote. They put a resolution and you are alone voting against it. You cannot say you didn't participate. You were there. I remember having one of us, a very credible, Amba, educated guy, who were all agreed that we're not going to partake of the of the Grand National Dialogue. This guy is a diplomat in a foreign mission. But what did he do? He went and wrote a paper. He didn't go to Yaoundé, but he wrote a paper and sent there his own position. And then he told me later on that, I wrote a paper about this. I said, then you participated. Because the fact that you participate in a discussion does not mean that your ideas must be accepted.
That's a fact.
But once you participate and your ideas are not accepted, you are bound by the decision because you were a participant. That's why the dupe late Cardinal Toomey, they knew that they were not going to, Toomey has everything should be on the table. They knew that he was not going to do. Anything Toomey said that they booed him. But that was not all. They made him chairman of the commission.
Yeah.
That will come out rubbish. Could Toomey, if he were alive, disassociate himself from that meeting? No, he was the chairman.
Yeah.
So once you get into the conference, you are part of it. The
You're
resolution will
in.
bind you. You
It's
cannot
like
go
a court,
there and
it's
dictate
like a
what you
court,
want.
like a court you've joined.
Yes. So they want the IG to be associated to whatever will come out. And we'll know whatever they come out. And so they will say, well, Mr. Dr. Sako, you were part of this decision. That was your table there. You gave your own opinion. And the group said, no, what will you do? See, we
The
plan a meeting.
IG's involvement legitimizes it and then fuels or add more value
Yes,
to the
it gives them
propaganda.
legitimacy. When they organize a meeting, don't think that these people are stupid. If they invite, call it Ambazonians, 50, expect to find the Ngoles, the Tasong, the Akwanga, the minister, all those ministers will be there. They're all English speaking. You cannot say they're not part of us. When you get there, you bring your own idea of this and that. They say, no, that's not what we want. What will you do? What will you do? But if you were asked to bring a delegation of the IG, will any of us sitting here be mad to include Tasson in his delegation, or to include Padi Asanga, or to include whoever in the delegation to go and talk with the Republic? No. So they are not being stupid. They are very, very intelligent. But unfortunately, intelligence was not made for them alone.
Yeah.
we don't have political office, but we're not dull. We're not stupid. So that's the
I
problem.
want to ask the team to say something we did not program, but I've just seen a report coming in. This is Undaunted, and we are up to date. There's a report that has just been published by Kemi Ashu, which we will link it into this discussion as far as the dynamics of our movement is concerned. But then I want you to address specifically, as the chairperson of the Judiciary Commission, this caption coming from Guardian Post so that it becomes as a statement of law and policy from the IG perspective. You have clearly stated that the IG did not even show interest in a conference talk less of making or presenting conditions to participate. That is disinformation, probably not even misinformation, is disinformation, is a calculated lie, which I think I want to read specifically what this paper said, and so that you make a statement on it and we move into. Now, Canada reportedly fronting fresh dialogue to end Anglophone crisis. Sarko-led Amazonia interim government gives conditions to participate. This is calculated lie, disinformation.
Well, I think we're all aware. We're all aware of what we wrote down. That's why I say administration is written. That document can be found and read by anybody. We don't need to waste our time on the lies of the Guardian Post. Again, I've said, if we were, they cannot say we did not show interest. If somebody had invited the IG officially, they will say, okay, please give us your reply in 2 weeks, in 1 week, in 10 days, whatever length of time. And if you don't reply, if you say nothing at all, shows you have no interest. But if you reply, giving your own terms, you're not bound to go to a meeting without preconditions. You're not bound to. You're bound to ask questions before you go to any meeting. And again, one of the things that made me personally to say, look, we're not going to Toronto a year ago. They saw out this idea, they came to me, they explained a million times. But there was one question they could not answer. I asked them the simple question, who is funding this meeting? Where you are flying people from all over the world, including me, to fly from the United States and go there, who is funding it? And they told me now, well, the money is from my pocket. Then I asked the people who were all ambassadors, is there any of you who can honestly say that you are neutral in this struggle? Somebody who has not lost a sister, who has not lost a compound. I can never be neutral. So I cannot pretend just to go for peace as a neutral victim, because we are victims. We're all victims. So
Yeah.
on that alone, we stopped. And we have said this many times before. The IG does not have the capacity or even the desire to stop people from meeting. They can meet 1 million times wherever they want to meet. But
Take it
nobody has
morning,
the power to
afternoon,
force,
night, let them go ahead and
yeah,
meet.
nobody has the power to force the IG to go to a meeting that they don't like.
Yeah. But you know,
So if you
one
invite
thing that
us,
is troubling, Barrister Team, is the bullying. They want to bully or emotionally blackmail. And they send their enablers to do that, to bully and emotionally blackmail the interim government to participate. That's what they try to do.
you'll be surprised that, I mean, you can say this publicly. What the people who try, what the person who tries to bully us 1 million times publicly on his shows, and it's of irrelevance actually. Is Mbakuru. I've talked to him privately. Mbakuru will be there. But
He's
what
a
are they
madman,
expecting
in my
Mbakuru
opinion.
to deliver in this conference, purportedly looking for peace? To deliver the consortium, which does not exist? So again, they have not changed from the tactics of bullying. They have not changed from the tactics of, they are not even bullying anymore. It's not even bullying. It's subterfuge. They pretend. Again, if this thing was not hurting them, why are they paying air tickets from their people come Yaoundé to fly to Canada? If the war was over, why are they spending that money for? They better use the money to go and dig their roads, get their water that they don't have even to drink. So they are pretending that the war is over. The war is hurting them probably more than it hurts us. I've always said this. Yes, people are dying. Our people are dying. Theirs are also dying. But in addition to their people dying, they are not having the money to pay their civil servants. We don't have civil servants to pay. They are the one buying military hardware on, on credit. We don't do that. They have to pay those loans.
We
It
have
is hurting
refugees
them.
to feed. We have IDPs
Yes,
to help. We have the
yeah,
restoration
but
forces to manage.
yes, I mean, our financial burden is not as bad as theirs. You and me contribute what we have to feed them, and they take on that. They go and take a World Bank loan from the World Bank, from the International Monetary Fund, at a terrible interest rate, which they must pay.
Yeah.
So it is not as simple as people think. Do not expect these people not. In fact, I in their position. If you're a thief, not if man comes out and say I don't thief. No, you manipulate to escape. And there are many of us who fall on this. Just before I came on this program, I was talking with someone in here one day who said he just visited Kondengi, okay, and found the people in Kondengi, at least another 10. A good number of them were so excited. Someone had told them that President Sako was taking part with the ARC. The ARC had sent some two women or two people to go and represent them in the so-called talks. They told them Anyangwe was coming in. They said, oh, this is good talk. These people don't have any information. I told the guy that that is a lie. And I've just forwarded to the person the IG statement position on the thing. So there's a lot of misinformation, but the misinformation doesn't do anything. If they inform the whole world by lying that we are there, and the talks ended after 1 week, after 2 months, after 3 days, and the war did not end, they would have failed. Because the idea, selling it to the international community is immaterial. We're not getting arms from the American government. We're not getting arms from any institution that is okay. If you don't listen to this, we'll not give you more arms. No, that's the peculiarity in this our struggle. We're not being launched, say, like in the case of Zimbabwe, where they pour on to Tanzania, to Zambia, where the Tanzanian government can say, go out of here. We're here to stay. They can go up to the moon, come down into the earth. That will not change anything until they do the right thing. Everybody agrees, and I think they agree, that even in a domestic dispute, you with your wife, you with your friend neighbor, over a fence, you always bring a third person. Kind of help us divide this bundle we argue about. You bring a family uncle, a family sister, auntie, come and listen to what I have with my wife. To solve it, she will come and say, well, why do you not give salt? Madam, why do you not cook? You did not, as a husband, just sit there and say, well, I'm the husband, I'm not calling anybody, you have to do what I want. If you do that, you lose a woman, she will leave.
Yeah.
She will go.
You know, there's something very vital about what you said, which I think if we even start expanding on it tonight, we might just not stop. There's this, I think it should be a breaking news. It's Kemi Ashu. So I have not verified outside Kemi Ashu, but I know she's good in fetching good news. She says, all charges against Nnamdi Kanu dropped, and he is freed from jail. This is directly related to us in terms of our argument as a government concerning the unscrupulous behavior or activism of Joe Ayaba the other time affiliated. Now, what interests me here, you just mentioned Sisiko, and I thought that this is good for us to relate. In this way, we're going to be ending, concluding the discussion. What is my interest here is the power of the Anglo-Saxon system, how lawyers are able to mount pressure, even though there are chances that Nnamdi Kanu perhaps could have compromised with the ruling government or the ruling party now led by Buhari to ensure his release, or possibly it could be somebody pressing the button to sabotage Obi's campaign, or probably it could be a message that is being sent to the community, the international community, as Nigeria is fronting their elections come next year. A lot is involved in this. Again, this is a language that we have experts like you being able to decode. His release is a proof of something. That is it that he's abandoning his quest to free the indigenous people of Biafra, or there is some intent to have a more inclusive Nigerian government? We're going to be looking at it as it unfolds, but as it relates us, you may want to talk in a diversified way that have presented it. But as it relates to us, talk it, please.
Well, I think this is what we should understand. When we sit here, or Namdi Kanu sits there, and we're fighting for the liberation of Amazonia, just like Namdi Kanu is fighting for whatever he calls Biafra. There are a number of things that you must do and a number of things that you must not do. No freedom fighter takes himself into jail, into the jail of his opponent to make to make a name. You don't do that. There's a strategy, you don't do it. Our disagreement with Choyaba was and is still that what was the strategy in aligning with Namdi Kano? I saw the same thing released there. He's not just released, he's coming out of the court. The court ruled something in his favor. Yes. Do you believe that because he's released, he's going to set up capital in Anambra, in Enugu? Of course, they'll catch him again. So, where was he caught? Why was he taking those adventures? No freedom fighter takes himself to jail out of inadvertence, out of carelessness. That should be the same bell that rings in the ear of our freedom fighters, of our own people who are in jail. We don't know what Sisku and his people were doing in Nara Hotel. We don't know. For now, we don't know. But what was the essence? What was the strategy? Holding such a strategic meeting in a hotel would that what we call in Cameroon your own messenger standing at the door to supervise that somebody is coming to pick you up, or even just to spy and record what you're saying. That was not a good strategy. I'm sure no other ambassador leader will ever venture into that. That's why you heard, the past 1 year, people will say, President Sako, just go here to Somaliland. You don't go to those sort of things because you don't know where your enemy is, especially when you are dealing with other people to Cameroon. These are people who followed Felix Meme to Geneva, to everywhere, and killed them. The killing of their opponents did not start with us. No. They follow you to wherever they are. They eliminate you. So Namdu Kani, Kanu, whatever he calls himself, he's released, yes. Do you think he's going to be a very happy man? Yeah, I spent 6 months, I've spent a year in jail. How did I help him? So let him be released. But he's released done because he is the Nigerian judicial system is something at least that follows the Anglo-Saxon style of you, the accuser, prove what the guy has done. That would not happen with Yaoundé. They put it to jail first before they look for evidence. Which, if they don't have, they manufacture it. That's what they've been doing.
Yes.
There are people in Yaoundé who have been locked in Kondenge for 5, 6, 7 years without a charge. So
6, 7 years. You have those who
Kanu
were
storage
arrested that are Amazonians that were arrested in 2008 when there was a fuel protest. There are some of them still in Kondenge. You have those who were arrested in the 90s that are still in Kondenge. You have Amba been in Kondenge for 3 decades.
Yes, so that's what I've been trying to explain. These are brothers and sisters in the Kondenge jails in Bafusam, in Boya. They have an illusion. If a man would wait, they will never release you. They will rather, if they were to release you, they will poison you silently, say, go and die. So you never have the opportunity to repeat your operation to their kangaroo system. That's their practice. That's the fact. They eliminate you. So I'm sure if you see an Amazonian leader who claims to be a leader sharing a drink with Yaoundé, that's not our opponent. But once you start to do that, your days are numbered, politically or otherwise. They don't leave you alone. They used Fonka Jean Laurent to overthrow Estimuna. They eliminated Fonka Jean Laurent to put Yeye Jebreya. They kill you. They took Iti Igwe to Yaoundé, put him in the government house until he died and refused even to transfer his corpse to his native man, who had been their loyal servant. And so on and so forth. That is their practice. You must know the political ground, the playground where you find yourself. Sit there and think that you would just do because it happened in Nigeria or happened somewhere else. It will not happen in Cameroon. These people are absolutely wicked. They are wicked, at least politically.
Now, barrister,
If you go, let me
barrister,
learn. If you go to Kumba, if you go to Bamenda, if you go to all these, find all this what we call the frogs who have come and set up businesses there for their children were born there. They went to Sase, they went to Bali. How many of our own children went and live in Douala and went to Lycée Leclerc or whatever thing? We were just neighbors. Why did you not do it? Our own ground was fertile for them to come. There was nothing to attract us to their own. Thank you.
barrister Tim, you just mentioned something that has provoked what is going to end this. This is Clovis or Car Clovis of DDR. That's saying something about the man, the big mouth, who was pressing on the president to go into the Somaliland. The same man who said he bypassed or he was spotted in transit by the man in Cameroon. It's funny, his statements do not meet logic. He knows that he's lying, and every Amazonian knows that he was lying. But let's listen to this fresh one coming in now. It's an audio, a video. We're not going to listen all, but at least you can listen very closely to understand exactly what he was saying, the objective why Anu went to Nigeria. It could be a conspiracy theory, but there is some aspect of truth which Amazonians predicted, and he is just coming to fill in the gaps. Let's listen.
The so-called Amba terrorists then for ground zero, they be hold a meeting. We get Sagat, their so-called General Sagat, General Lucifer, General Transporter, Focus, Bitacola, that is Francis for Butu side. So they be whole meeting close to the 7 generals then. Okay, now because they waiting, Chris Anu, wait there for diaspora, we be run come for Nigeria, can make it showcase for making money because Chris Anu can never live without Ambazonian because it is fitna from Ambazonian. That is the truth. So he called transporter, whether the so-called Francis for Butu, tell he say he go pay them 30 million CFA francs. If they go burn down Pamol for inside Lobe Estate. He go give them 30 million. So it don't.
I think we'll finish the rest of it some other time. I'm sure Ochiba, Nessie, myself, and others will analyze it. What is concerning is the fact that Mr. Anu is crying for money. Mr. Anu's government has been unable to raise more than 5,000 since he became purportedly a president of his group of the Cooper faction. Mr. Anu went with a delegation of 3. Mr. Anu had his wife in the mortuary. Mr. Anu spent money for the refugees, purportedly. Mr. Anu is promising, because these boys talk, they talk with the DDR guys. So this is not a conspiracy theory. Mr. Anu promising. Question, where can he get 15 million that they spend, the 3 of them, going to Nigeria, paying hotels and Galvan? Where is he about to get 13 million francs CFA? Could it be true that those who are thinking that he was sponsored or he's being sponsored by Yaoundé? If not, where is he getting money from to do all of this? It's concerning. We can't keep quiet about this because our people need to always get it as it comes. You know, we want to pay the people as it comes with this. Where's he getting his money from?
Well, I think I had said here earlier in this discussion that we were invited to go to Toronto. And the key point I asked them, who is sponsoring this thing financially?
Yeah.
And they didn't tell me, and they told no one else. It is
Yeah.
not just Chris and me. If you, Paddy, he sat there and told me that, look, if you appear in this program, I'll give you $10,000. The first question I'll ask is, where are you getting $10,000 to give me?
From.
If you don't ask that question, something is wrong with you. No longer with Paddy who is lying, because you're falling to the lies like a blind man. So whether he was going to do this in Nigeria or not, I've never wanted to discuss this Anu story
You
anymore.
can't avoid it.
Because you see, when we look at his trip to Nigeria, whether he's giving $30,000, 30 million, 100 million, whatever amount of money, there are two things to analyze there, which are fault some of his best friends. No normal human being, I say normal human being, will leave the corpse of a wife, a child, a best friend in the mortuary to go and do politics. Those of us who live in the United States know how Joe Biden put off his presidential bid in 2016 because his son Bo died. They're just being human. If we have a president, if we have anybody leader, just a departmental leader like me, who does not care about his
I'm not
own
cutting you
children or
short,
his
sir.
own family,
Purportedly, from his utterances, he was trying to prove that he can make sacrifices for Ambazonia, but he didn't even carry Ambazonian flag. So you're thinking that all of that was even poor calculation.
even if you went there, clothed in Ambazonian flags, led by 10 generals of Ambazonia, that would not be human. If it is an election, I would never vote for a person like that. Because if you don't care for your own wife, for your own children, for your own best friend, how are you going to care for the overall nation? How are you going to do it? Does his brother, if he truly died, blame him for not taking his death seriously? If he could not take the death of his wife, the woman he shared a bed with every day, if he couldn't take that woman's death seriously, how will he take the death of his own brother who lived thousands of miles away seriously? That is just inhuman. That's the truth. As the Bible says, do unto others as you want them to do to you. I will not do that on our family. I will not encourage you to do that. If we were coming to this program, a party call me and say, look, brother, my wife just fell sick, my son just fell sick. I'll say, sorry, let us put it off for tomorrow. That's the normal thing.
Yeah, you have done that a couple of times. You have a family
Yes.
emergency,
So if you don't care for
and
your
that's
own family,
understood.
your family is part of the Ambazonia, it's part of you. It is poor. I don't know what it is. Even if you calculate anything. Those who advise him, who don't tell him this truth, are not helping him because they will not do it to their own families. So instead of getting 20 million to give somebody, it's just a lie. He's not going to give you 30 million. He's never going to give you 5. If you go and bend the palm or whatever thing, he will take credit for it to show that he's a powerful guy. But I can guarantee you 100% he will never give you that money because he doesn't even have it. If he had it, he would dupe you. He will never even give it to you. Why did he
And you're
not pay them
saying
in
it
advance?
has
Go execute this.
that
Yes.
he has a tendency of duping. Why will you make such a statement about a man who purportedly is claiming to be a saint?
I've
That
not
if
said
he
that he
has
has a
it,
tendency of duping. I've said if he does that, he'll be
he
duping
would
you.
dupe.
Yes, because he will not pay. For one thing, he doesn't have the money. If he
I
had the
was
money,
actually thinking that you're about relating it with 135,000 US dollars that he
what
initiated
the
a
one
deal.
hundred thirty-five
That,
hundred thousand dollars, I cannot say that he duped because he claimed that it was given to somebody else.
but that's
So
how 419s
yeah,
behave.
yeah,
They
that guy
send the
turned out
person that
being
comes to take it, and then they observe.
the guys who have had people turned out being dupes. We've had several other dupes in this struggle. Our problem with Chris Anu and the 135,000 is that he did not even accept that they were dupes because he went further to explain that the people were so good that they sent some of the people to come and fight, and some of them died in Momo. therefore justifying their
Oh,
action.
really?
Yeah, you
You're
didn't listen
now
to the
giving the
audio.
public a fresh information.
Yeah, he said that some of them, even one of them, even some of them died. And I asked the question. So this guy was a mercenary. Maybe this 135,000 mercenaries don't work for nothing. They work for a pay. So we've had so many dupes. People have duped us. If I dupe you, if I dupe this thing now and come and say, brother, oh, that man was just a thief, you people will sympathize with me. But as long as I continue to defend the thieves, the dupes, I become a thief. We should generally cry out that will bestow our money. But if I'm the principal actor and I'm not crying out, I'm only denying, I become an actor. So whatever thing happened there, I was in the meeting where they made that declassification. When the president called the meeting to say, well, this is what happened. These Putin are being they did not even accuse anyone for stealing the money. It is he
Yeah.
wrapped it on himself.
He was the one that came and said he was a dupe. I've listened to
Yes,
them.
I was in that meeting. He was the one who made a big deal of it to pretend that the president was lying. A dear one who went to Africa
Was
and went to
laughing.
country one,
That
country
one
two,
was
country three.
smiling. He
Yeah,
was
these
smiling.
are the
That one
people.
was laughing.
These are the people who are supposed to justify that the threat, but they were defending it. So they took upon themselves, the criminals, because I don't know when the dear one said that I went to country A, country B, somewhere we saw customs, which were all lies. If he had said that he had gone there and saw nobody at all, that would have justified their theft. So, honorably, the
But he
president talked.
actually claimed that he saw people and he cannot
Yeah, he
get a
saw
hold.
people. And where are these people? He cannot tell us. So I always look at that story and say, look, this poor president. This man was just being honest to call this meeting and say, well, they took our money. It has turned out that they're thieves. Then people took upon themselves, assumed it upon themselves, and became the principal actors. But that's not the debate for today. We talk
I
about
got
Nigeria.
very emotional about it at the time when um, county chairs were inflaming and they said they wanted some reform. I watched it. It was a long debriefing. And at the time, the president was pleading. The president was actually pleading with county chairs, trying to find a way for them to just let it low and calm it down. And Igawan was laughing. Igawan was
Yeah,
busy just smiling in with his jaws all
so
over the
I
video.
mean, that is the thing. But again, that's not the topic for today. I was just trying to explain what he said about Nigeria and Kanu and all those sort of things. It's a leadership, especially leadership in this complex struggle, requires the ability to think, the ability to strategize, and the ability to act.
Yeah.
If you don't have these three qualities, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. And so, back to the topic that we have today. If we were invited to a conference in Canada, again, I've already said, we will scrutinize the invitation. Who is signing this invitation? Who is inviting us?
Who is sponsoring?
If we have questions to ask, we'll get back to the inviter, the man who is inviting us, and say, we have received your invitation, but these things are not clear. Who is doing this? What is it? Then we'll have answers. But as long as we don't have any official invitation, they expect us to go knock in the door. They will not even open for us because they'll ask you if you're a civilian man who invited you here. So again, back to Toronto, back to Canada. If the idea of any conference in Canada, in England, in Japan, in Yaoundé, anywhere in the world is to end the war, they have to do it the right way. Otherwise, they are instead prolonging the war. They can sit there with anybody. They can sit with ACT. They can sit with. What is the difference between Yaoundé meeting with Chiwayaba in Canada, different from meeting with Chiwayaba in Bamenda to go and rescue Madame Mundi? What's the difference? There are some people. What's the difference between Akwanga meeting with Yaoundé in Toronto and meeting with them in Ghana? There's no difference. He had told us himself that he met with them in Ghana. He called off the fighting. He made a ceasefire. It didn't work. So taking it to another level doesn't change anything.
Okay, that's quite instrumental. I just realized Ochiba Nelson is trying to call me. I don't know if he wants to make a contribution in this discussion, but we have actually come to a close of the talk. Thank you for the brief notice and for opting. On Saturday, you, myself, and Barrister Fru will be talking on some related issues, pre-draft Menchum. We are drafting Menchum County on, and everything we're going to be talking about, Barrister, is intricately related to why Ambazonians have got to draft as the only way forward. So, according to an invitation, an official invitation has been sent by the county of Menchum, signed by Peter Fong, the chairman of Menchum County. I would read it really very quickly. Thank you, Barrister. When I read it, you may want to give a word of encouragement to those watching and for their turnout, and we'll continue the discussion on Saturday. So the invitation reads thus. Dear comrades, special invitation to Menchum County draft. Liberation struggle greetings. Cognizance of the saying that a louse can only be killed by a combination of two fingers, and that many hands make work lighter. The people of Menchum believe that success in their draft project can be best guaranteed if pillar stakeholders like you own it. It is mindful of this thought that we hereby extend a special invitation to you for the Menchum County draft slated for Saturday, October 15, 2022. The event will take place on ABC Amba TV, Facebook, YouTube, Zoom. Links to be shared later. From 7 p.m. Amber time. Your presence and draft support during the event will be highly appreciated. Notwithstanding, should you not be able to attend due to other exigencies and wish to draft immediately, we request you to kindly send your financial support through any of the channels below. Okay, there are channels below at your convenience. I think that since I cannot read all of the channels, it is also very safe. If you look below our screens, you have the Ambazonia Foundation, Amberland Humanitarian payment details. You can draft and say for humanitarian for Menchum County, or just put draft humanitarian Menchum County. That will be handed to them because it's the same body. We will share these details on the website immediately, and tomorrow all the programs that are coming up will follow up, and we'll use opportunity with all the channels available to make sure that there is an extensive publicity for this program. Thank you, Menchum County Chair, for facilitating our work by sending out this public invitation. Real quickly, sir, maybe you want to chip in a word or two, and I will have Ochiba talk to us briefly.
I think what we've learned so far in this draft thing is that this IG, which is in charge of the draft, believes, and the people believe, that Ambazonia struggle is one for all for one. We're not going to leave an inch of our territory behind. Menchum is as important as Fako, it's as important as Momo, it's as important as any other county. So we shall all go there, do what we've been doing all the time, if not more, to be sure that Menchum is not left behind. We shall go through the struggle together. We shall celebrate together. We are crying together. So I think the invitation is welcome. It is appropriate, it is timely, it is the right thing to do. We'll all be there, give the widows mite, and then we can build mountains out of petty sand.
Thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful one. Yes, Ochiba, you're live on ABC Amba TV. You have 90 seconds, please.
Okay, I want to just thank Barista for all the education he give with people. And I want to remind all the restoration forces them say, if some person never get audio, when president put up for outside there for define who be a soldier and which kind of soldier will they fight, me they try listen to that audio. Barrister don't talk fine thing for they say not only interim government they one and not the one way you don't put a document for talk say they not go Canada. All the rest of the people they be just come out there, they want sample for see if popular opinion it will be in accordance for Canada, they could sign a document because they are participating. You know, expect for see them there in person physically. They feel participate through Zoom or they will do any endorsement for anything them where they will try to do and for the any person where it talks if Canada want to do something, they will participate. They will do something. It means that person don't know exactly, be focused. A focused person will ask Canada say, when to be fair wrong with the switch talks before anyone try to organize something different. Because anything where the Republic try to come up now, nothing where you don't see and say it get a hole inside, it get a way for go out. You don't talk to many people that gather for Palo. You deny, now you want go now for go gather for backside for some little hole. So who know that the trap the way you don't put that for the so Ambazonia people today it already tell we who be for this struggle, not the interim government. All the rest of the people, whether they be now a leader or whosoever, they are not doing anything. They become outside yesterday, they can't talk how way they go for take the speed of lightning, take with the Shoboya. So we say that Edmond, so we say that this. The coup plotters, where are they today? You don't see them any longer. You know, they see them even come outside for talk, even for give education for people. They don't do anything because they will get a hidden agenda. If somebody can't tell you, say, La Republic recognize now interim government where it be for the and where commander restoration can put them. It means a year and La Republic they talk. Here La Republic they talk. La Republic never call you say you be Amazonian. Then how it go recognize some person talk say it be the interim government for Amazonia. So we will stand up, we will stand fine. All the people will be full of plotters and the fighters all the day for unity whatsoever. When I know see time not correct, we put La Republic into bleeding form for 2020, 2021. Then when I come back, we finish this fight. We not there for here now for make clear because La Republic big, you know, will spare anybody. Even if you there for DDR center everywhere, you know, will spare any person. So time will come, we go for draft and me everybody continue for draft. If you be a general, no come for the media, begin to talk some say, you know, they see money. Call your LGA chair people them, call them. If you don't pay them, contact ABC, they will direct you to them. You express your concern for them. So now the thing that we get for focus for here now, so we get for no city, so it will hold this thing tight. La Republic again for must come for table. The table where all we want them, even a table where we dictate on us. You know, if you make it dictate on us because we know they are under their own authority, so attack you plenty.
Thank you very much, Ochibanesin. Thank you, Barrister Team Besea, for being with us. Ambazonians are pleased for your passion and patriotism, always being available to facilitate our discussions. The rendezvous will be tomorrow. There's Horizon tomorrow at 6 p.m. Amber time. It's going to be a very special one, and I'm looking forward to have all of you Amazonians be a part of it. After the Horizon, you have Ethics for an Emerging Nation. Before that time, there might be a surprise outlook that we intend to show for Menchum and other things, but that has not been confirmed. When we confirm it, we will announce it. On Saturday, 6 p.m. Amber time, you have Undaunted recap. We're bringing you a recap of everything in the week and breaking news. We will also be having Barrister Fru Johnson and Barrister Tim Biseha with us to enhance the discussion pre-draft. Other members of Menchum County, probably we hope to have the Peter Fung and Pastor Commando help us with that talk also. So it's a loaded weekend, and we hope that Menchum ends up with the same successes that we've experienced. Thank you very much, and over to you, Undaunted.
And with that report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories.
Paul Achambang has failed to match words with actions. La Republic du Cameroon incarcerate conscious colonial military officers. And we brought to you that this month, October, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Alright, also today we talked about the financial scandals rocking La Republic du Cameroon. We said it was a colossal sum of 5 billion francs CFA unaccounted for. Also, La Republic du Cameroon police and corruption scandals involving identity card business. We revisited this topic again today. And in sports, we told you that Manchester United supporters trust set to launch legal action over Chelsea away ticket allocation. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing to the news Untold Stories. On behalf of my co-anchor Star Smart and the entire Undaunted crew and our guest analysts, we say thank you for tuning in. I am Onyi Obala.
We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.